Yung ano ba yan? Yung microvlogs?
Oo. Oh my
Wait,
God.
naka-live na tayo.
Ah,
Coms, can you check sa Facebook page, Lexi?
Maikot ako.
Hello everyone. Hello. Ayan. Hello,
Hello.
we're live. Hello. Good evening everyone to our viewers on Facebook. Hello. Thank you very much for sharing your evening with us. So, kanina we had some technical difficulties with our platform. So, luckily, ayan, gumana naman for now ang Facebook Live. So, ayan, welcome everyone to our second conservation conversation. This is our second episode and this is the takeover of the National Youth Council of WWF Philippines. Particularly, our topic will revolve around marine conservation today because May is basically the month of the ocean. So we have a special guest for this evening. We have a very special guest. Feeling ko matutuwa talaga kayo with our guest for today. And as a youth council member and as an environmental advocate and also as a Filipino citizen, I will be very happy and I hope na marami kayong matutunan from our session, from our Facebook takeover for today. So without further ado, let me just pass this moment to our NYC National Youth Council Chairperson, Ms. Kiana Flores, to introduce the National Youth Council.
Hi, thank you, Dane. Good evening, everyone. Ayun nga, as mentioned by Dane, itong conservation conversation session today is going to be facilitated by the National Youth Council. Today, I'm with Mina, Dane, Nikki, and Gab. If you can just wave, guys. Hi naman tayo sa mga viewers natin today. Yan. So, we are the National Youth Council. Siguro naka-visit na kami one time or twice sa mga schools nyo. That's what we usually do kasi what we really want to happen is to actually bridge environmental sustainability sa mga kapwa naming young Filipinos who are actually interested and really passionate about conservation and sustainability. Let me just share my screen with you. Ayan. Actually, si WWF National Youth Council, we were established back in 2015. And each batch, meron siyang 8 members who are actually from different backgrounds. Katulad namin, meron kaming, katulad sa batch this year, merong mga from liberal arts, and then meron tayong mga science majors, merong who's actually interested in photography, meron din namang who's into sustainable fashion, and marami din gumagamit ng different forms in order to promote conservation and sustainability. Since si WWF talaga, ang main goal niya is to actually represent the youth by providing relevant insights on environmental concerns and at the same time encourage and empower yun nga, fellow Filipinos to do conservation projects and to participate in different programs about sustainability here in the Philippines. Si WWF National Youth Council, kami nila Mina, nila Dane, nila Nikki, and nila Gab, we usually go to different schools to conduct talks. We had a youth camp in San Vicente, Palawan 2 years ago. And we also do partnerships with different institutions and different organizations kapag gusto nilang mag-venture into conservation. So that's a short glimpse of what we do as the National Youth Council. Yun.
Thank you very much, Kiana, for sharing what we do in NYC. Ayan. So, most of what we do in NYC is actually talaga youth-oriented, and most of our initiatives and projects are youth-led and are basically for the youth. So we've been to many places in the Philippines and we've been serving our Filipino youth as much for environmental sustainability and environmental protection. So just to give you an idea why we have this Facebook Live right now and why we have an NYC takeover with the WWF Philippines Facebook page is that we have this visual session, this FB session. We call it the Conversation Conservation. So this talk is actually revolving around the projects and how the Youth Council and how the youth in general can be part of initiatives and projects which would answer issues particularly for the environment. So basically, ano ba yung ginagawa ng mga kabataan particular na sa mga issues natin sa ating kalikasan, and what are those initiatives and what are those successes that we had previously for those initiatives. So this is our second episode. We had our last episode last April. That was a success and that was on Instagram. But right now we had to maximize our platform, which is on Facebook. And I hope we have the audience right now. So sa mga nanonood ngayon, maraming salamat po sa pagsubaybay ngayon. I hope you get to learn something from our special guest, which is very special kasi idol ko din yon. Idol ng karamihan sa NYC, and also he's a marine scientist. So parang sa amin na mga may background in science, tinitingala namin siya sa field ng marine science. So anyway, to introduce our speaker, our guest for this evening, we have Miss Mina Lim. Nina?
Hi, hello. Thank you din. Thank you, Kiana. So, yung special guest natin ngayon ay si Dr. Deo Onda. So, pwedeng nakita niyo na nga siya sa TV eh. So, ayun, si Dr. Deo Onda, he's a current assistant professor at the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute. And he is the founding principal investigator of the Microbial Oceanography Lab. He's also the deputy director for research of UPMSI, and he obtained his PhD in oceanography in Laval University sa Quebec, Canada, and returned to the Philippines as a returning scientist fellow of DOST. Yung research focus niya is on microbial assemblages and microplastics, and he identifies plastic pollution as an emerging transnational boundary problem. So later, after his discussion, you may ask him questions about marine debris. And another awesome thing about Sir Deo is that just last year, as chief scientist, he led the scientific expedition to the Kalayaan group of islands in the West Philippine Sea. And I was very fortunate to work as a research associate under his leadership. So, ayun guys, let's all welcome our special guest for this ConCon, Dr. Deo Onda.
Hi. Hi, Nina. Thank you for that very, very generous introduction. Medyo naiyakan ng konti. Magandang gabi sa lahat. At saka thank you sa WWF National Youth Council for the invitation. I'm so grateful and happy to be with my fellow youth.
Anyway, hello Sir Deo.
Hello. Kumusta?
Hello Sir. Ito po, umuulan po sa Baguio. Kumusta po? Nasaan po kayo ngayon?
Wow! Nasa QC ako ngayon, nanonood ng sunset. Napakagandang sunset. If you have time, look out into your windows.
Ayan, akala ko po nasa Tubataha kayo. Charot lang.
May ECQ eh, di ba? At nasa modified ECQ na tayo next.
Ayan sir, sige, siguro to start this conversation, sir, can you share your journey with us? Maybe your personal journey when you were in college. Saan ka ngayon affiliated and paano ka nagsimula basically with what you're doing right now as a marine scientist?
Yeah. Siguro in line with the celebration of the month of the ocean, I'll highlight kung bakit ako naging isang marine scientist. And also in line with the advocacies of the world, the WWF, I'll highlight din ano ba yung pagiging isang advocate. Pag sinabi mo bang environmental advocate, ano ba ibig sabihin nun? So, I became a marine scientist primarily because I think, taga Palawan ako. So, I lived in the last ecological frontier of the country. I'm from the south of Palawan. Napakaliit na bayan. It's called Brooks Point. It's like 4 hours away from Puerto Princesa. So, when I was born in Palawan, I think bata pa lang ako, meron na agad exposure, meron na agad yung curiosity at interest with the marine environment. Yung bahay namin, pag lumabas ka, it's just like 150 meters away from the sea. So, gumigising ako na naririnig ko yung alon, natutulog ako na naririnig ko yung alon. So, ganun ako kalapit sa dagat. Sabi nga ng nanay ko, boy hasang daw ako eh. Kasi after school, bago umuwi ng bahay, didiretso muna ako sa dagat. Maliligo o kaya mamamasyal kami sa fringing reefs, yung bahura ang tawag. And then I collect things. I collect different things. Tapos iuwi ko sa bahay namin. Yung nanay ko galit na galit kasi kung ano-ano inuwi ko araw-araw. Pero I think that's where it started because I also started asking questions. I became interested with different organisms that you don't see on land and you only see underwater. Yung mga tanong ako, bakit lumalabas lang yung bahura kapag hapon? Ano-ano yung mga nakikita ko, ba't ibang kulay ng isda? So I think that's where the curiosity started. Nung lumalaki na ako, katulad nating lahat, nung tinatanong ako, anong gusto mong maging pag-college? Gusto ko maging pari. Gusto ko maging doktor. Actually, I was supposed to go to med school, di ba? Gusto kong maging teacher. Ganun yung perception because as a young, as someone who came from the province, yung iniisip kasi natin na pwedeng career path lang, limited dun sa mga alam natin na usual na mainstream professions. Police, doktor, Pag sinabi mo dati nung bata ako, pag sinabi kong gusto kong maging scientist, baka yung nanay ko, parang, saan ka pupunta? Anong kapupuntahan mo? And I think, mahalaga para sa akin na yung nanay ko, she was actually very supportive. My mom, my parents were very supportive of me. So when I went to college, I actually went to UP Baguio, katulad ni Dane, taga UP Baguio din. I went to UP Baguio the primary reason is to actually be a pre-med student. Kasi ang gusto ko nga maging medical student afterwards. I want to take up medicine. Pero pagdating ng UP Baguio, doon nagbago lahat. You know, while in Baguio, I became a member of the UP Baguio Mountaineers. I got exposed to Cordilleran culture. Alam ni Dane to. So, I went hiking in the entirety of Cordillera sa UP Baguio Mountaineer. I get to immerse myself with the Cordilleran culture. And you will realize how the Cordillerans are so much appreciative of what they have. Yung kultura ng Cordillera, nakakabit siya dun sa pang-araw na buhay ng mga Cordilleran. And then, I became so involved with different things. I was also part of different environmental organizations. As a member of the student council, I started campaigning for the Styro-Free UP. So yung Styro-Free UP, I established an environmental alliance called UP Baguio Environmental Alliance. Ang idea lang nun is to campaign to start banning the use of styrofoam. And then it started with my college and then went to the university, binan siya sa buong university. After UP Baguio, the entire UP system actually adopted it. So a very small idea could actually become big if we want, if we know, and if we have the right people we work with. So, parang doon nagsimula yon na yung background ko with science, na-weave ko na siya doon sa personal advocacies. And then, hindi na ako tumuloy ng medicine. I went to actually Marine Science Institute. Pagdating ko sa MSI, mas lalong tumibay, lumago yung kagustuhan ko na maging isang researcher. Because I thought, you know, one day you're gonna ask yourself, where would I be able to contribute the most? And I think marami ng mga talented na tao na pumupunta sa medisina. Marami ng mga talented na tao na pumupunta sa iba't ibang larangan. Pero I think in the Philippines, we need more scientists. And I was very fortunate to be actually part of the MSI. Kasi yung mga dreams ko lang nung bata ako, nasagot siya ng MSI. Yung mga tanong ko na bakit ang bahura nakikita lang sa hapon o kaya sa umaga, nasagot siya ng MSI. MSI also gave me the platform to actually be equipped. It gave me the tools, it gave me the knowledge, and it gave me the foundation to relate yung daily experiences ko with the science and the community. And I think that's very important. And then after that, I went to do my PhD na in the Arctic. Yeah. So doon nagsimula yung curiosity going into a profession, into a career, you know. And then I want to believe that I'm living what I want. I'm living the dream that I had when I was a child.
Okay, Sir Deo, may tanong lang po ako. Bilang youth naman po tayong lahat dito. Pero of course, some of the NYC members, may mga nag-aaral pa po here. And then some of us, of course, are taking up their graduate studies. So that one question is, what's one lesson maybe that you have learned from some of your mentors, maybe in grad school or in your work as a marine scientist? And paano ka po natulungan nung lesson na yon throughout your career as a marine scientist, as an environmental advocate? And then, how do you think that particular lesson is applicable to the youth in general? Kasi for sure may nanonood tayong mga kabataan ngayon and maybe they want to be inspired by, of course, may na-establish ka naman na po kahit papaano. So, can you share a lesson to us, sir? Lesson? Parang lecture, sir.
Actually, I want to highlight that the most life-changing lessons I've learned were not from classrooms. Actually, not from my PhD, not from my master's advisors. I learned a lot of things by listening to the community, by listening to people, by actually immersing yourself. The most memorable life lessons I had were not with books, but actually when I was having beer with the fisher folks, when I was in a farm with the farmers, you know, nung nasa Cordillera ako under the night sky at pinapakinggan ko yung kwento ng mga magsasaka sa Cordillera. So I think the lesson there is to listen. Know how to listen. Each person has his or her own story. And believe me, each story, you'll be able to learn something. There's not one single lesson that you'll learn or that I will give you, but probably a tip that you listen to people. Tayo bilang advocates, minsan there's always an opposition doon sa mga ginagawa natin, di ba? Pero don't silence them. Listen to them. Kasi by listening to them, you also learn. And then by learning, you get to know now how to handle them, how to communicate with them, how to actually change their minds. So I think listening. But the opposite to listening is actually communication. Talk to people. I always say there's a lot of good researchers around. There's a lot of good scientists around, but not everyone is a good communicator. Pag sinabi scientist, minsan tutulugan, ganon, or we see scientists to be in ivory towers or intimidating, masyadong highfalutin yung mga sinasabi. But in reality, if you want to push for an advocacy, the one tool that we really need is communication. So we need to learn the language of the people. Kagabi may binabasa lang ako, sabi niya, if you want to be successful in your advocacy, you need to be part of the narrative. You need to be the narrative. You need to experience the narrative. And the only way you can do that is by immersing yourself. Immersing yourself to the situation itself, immersing yourself with the people, immersing yourself with the community, and experiencing yung advocacy mo mismo. Kasi mahirap ipaliwanag sa tao pag hindi mo mismo naiintindihan eh. And tayo as environmental advocates, ako bilang isang marine scientist, pagkausap ko yung mga politicians, ang unang tanong na sinasabi ko sa kanila, tinatanong ko sa kanila, nasubukan niyo na ba mag-dive? Kasi mahirap mag-explain pag sinabi kong protektahan ng mga bahura, protektahan ng mga isda. Pero hindi naman nila alam kung anong itsura ng corals, hindi na alam kung anong itsura ng mga isda. Hindi nila naiintindihan kasi ibang mundo yon. So that's the first thing that you need to do. One, listen to their stories, and also to communicate with the people. And you can only communicate really well if you become part of the narrative. So I think that's one thing na maganda na sigurong tip. It's not a life lesson kasi I think each of us na marami tayong natututunan sa buhay eh. Yun din.
Thank you for that, Sir Deo. Anyway, totoo na nga po yun eh. Parang may one time din po nagpunta kami sa isang far-flung area in Benguet. So kasama ko po yung coordinator namin sa NYC at isang member from the environmental education team in WWF Philippines. And we went to this place. Most of the members of the team weren't able to speak Ilocano. And the thing is, I'm from the Cordilleras and I was the only one who's able to speak in Ilocano. So when we were delivering our lectures, parang mas naiintindihan ng mga tao pag nagsasalita ka talaga in their own language, in their own dialect. And I think you can connect more and you can persuade more to be part of your advocacy. So I think tama nga naman po yung talagang kailangan we should learn the language of our people that we want to serve. So
may isa din akong story eh. Si Mina, nung nasa Kalayaan kami last year ni Mina, so nasa dagat na kami ni Mina for 2 weeks eh. So parang towards the end of 2 weeks, naghahanap ka na ng medyo fresh na isda, ganyan. No, when we were around Pag-asa, there was a fisherman who actually approached our vessel. Tapos sabi nila, Sir, sabi ano yun? Sir, gusto niyong isda? Sabi ko, syempre, bagong huling isda. Di sabi namin, sige, parang bibiliin na lang namin. Ang hinihingilan ng manong ay tubig. Sabi niya, pahingi na lang po kami ng tubig or soft drinks, tapos bibigyan namin kayo ng isda. Pero binili pa din namin isda. Ngayon, nung binigay na sa amin yung isda, yung laman ng isang banyera, lapu-lapu. Ako, galing ako ng Southern Palawan. When you say lapu-lapu, araw-araw, ganyang kalalaking lapu-lapu yung nakikita ko. Pero that day, binigyan ako ng isang banyera na hindi pa malaki sa palad ng kamay ko yung lapu-lapu. The fishes that we receive were not, bigger than the palm of my hands. Sabi ko, Manong, ba't ang liliit naman ito? Sabi nung Manong sa akin, ay sir, matagal na po kami hindi nakakahuli ng malalaking lapu-lapu dito. Sabi niya, nung dumating po ako ng Pag-asa 10 years ago, araw-araw, naglalapu-lapu kami ng 2 talampakan ng haba. Pero ngayon po, hindi na kami nakakahuli. As a scientist, what does it tell me? That the people living in Pag-asa actually know that their environment is changing. That they themselves are experiencing the changes through time. Kami, anecdotal yun sa akin as a scientist, But it tells us that Pag-asa, the West Philippine Sea itself has changed over time. And there's a problem somewhere. Ano kaya yung problema? Baka may overfishing. Baka merong illegal activities na nangyayari nakakasira doon sa habitat. Baka may cyanide, baka may dynamite fishing, baka yung intrusion ng ibang mga mangingisda already affects the livelihood of the local people. So by listening to a fisherman, you get to get insights, deeper insights on what is actually happening on the ground. Kami bilang scientists, pag pumupunta kami ng Kalayaan, it's just once a year, or 3 times in a decade. Pero yung mga taong to, they live in their environment. They know their environment. They know more about the environment than you. So as an advocate, if you want to push for something, listen to the people who actually live in the community. Kasi they'll be able to tell you stories, very good stories, compelling stories, how their environment is changing. And if you want to push for that advocacy, we need to listen to them. So yeah, I think listening to each and everyone, it's a good skill, and it's a good practice to do.
Yun sir.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Miki. It's
okay. Sorry, we're all so excited to have you as our guest speaker. But one thing I wanted to ask you about is something I think everyone on the NYC can relate to, as well as many people in our audience. So a lot of us are in college or going off to graduate studies. What advice do you have for young people pursuing further education?
Existential question. I never thought that I'd be a scientist. After finishing college, I thought I'll be in med school, but opportunities opened up. After masters, I thought I'm gonna be done and I'll just work in the industry or in a research institution. But another door opened and I grabbed it. One thing, graduate school is not easy. It's not always fun. Most of the time, it's actually cruel. It's actually a battle with yourself. You're gonna have sleepless nights asking yourself, why did I do this? Bakit ko to pinasok? But at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, does it really make you happy? It's a cliche thing to say, but you really need to know, to love what you want and to want what you're doing. Kasi mahirap mag-survive sa isang grad school if you do not know and if you do not like what you're doing. I think the second question you need to ask yourself is, what do you want to get after it? What do you want to get after grad school? Gusto mo ba kasing may diploma ka lang? Or because you really want to do research that will contribute to the development of the country? Or gusto mo lang ng title dun sa dulo ng pangalan mo? I know people who are like that. Pero at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, para kanino ba to? Para sa sarili ko? Para sa mga taong nasa paligid sa akin? I have one story about it. After my postdoc, because after my PhD in Canada, I went for a postdoc in Germany. And then in 2017, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to come back to the Philippines. Sabi ko, masarap ang buhay abroad. I mean, aminin naman natin, less stress, more funding, life is, the quality of life is actually higher. And then when I came back in 2017, I was still struggling. I received an offer in UP Diliman to apply in the Marine Science Institute to apply and come back as an assistant professor. Pero I wasn't sure. Sabi ko, babalik kaya ako? And then I went on vacation to my parents' house sa Palawan. And then one day, when I was strolling on the beach, may nakita ko mga bata, small kids. Tapos randomly, one of the kids asked me, "Sanya kuya?" Sabi, bakit? Ano to? Hawak niya yung seaweed. It's a sargassum, the brown seaweeds that get stuck on the shore. Sabi niya, ano to? Randomly, he just asked me. Siyempre, I'm a biologist. Nagpasikat ako. So, sinagot ko, tawag dyan seaweed, it's sargassum, ganyan. And you know what? That one question led to another. We started talking about the fish, we started talking about the corals, we started talking about climate, we started talking about climate change. And then towards the end of the conversation, he asked me, sabi niya, ba't ang dami mong alam? Sabi ko, kasi scientist ako. So I started explaining what I do. Sabi ko, tapos towards the end of the conversation, sabi niya sa akin, para ka palang doktor. Doktor nga lang ng dagat. It stuck yung doktor ng dagat sa akin. Kasi a small kid would tag you or give you a name na doktor ng dagat. Parang, I want to be called like that. And then the following day, yung nanay ng bata, nakita ko siya sa palengke, nilapitan ako nung nanay ng bata. Sabi niya sa akin, Doc, sabi ko, bakit po? Ikaw ba yung nakausap ng anak ko kahapon? Sabi ko, ako po. And then sabi nung nanay, yung anak ko gusto na maging doktor daw. Doktor ng dagat tulad mo. That day, it changed everything. Yung agam-agam ko, if I'm gonna come back to the Philippines, nawala. That day, I also decided na if I can actually inspire one person to pursue a career in the marine science, I think that's already enough. That day, I realized na baka dito ako kailangan. Baka I need to inspire more kids to actually become scientists. Kung nagawa ko bilang isang probinsyano to actually have a PhD and then do what I'm doing right now, baka ganun din yung kaya kong gawin sa ibang bata. So yeah, I think you need to have that one reason beyond you, above you, and more than the degree itself. Why are you going to pursue graduate studies? So, yun. Medyo melodramatic, pero, we always have these stories that would change our lives. Turning points siya sa buhay natin. So, I think you just need to explore it, yung sa sarili mo, where do you want to go afterwards?
Thank you so much. That was super inspiring. Everyone saying here how much we love that story. I'm sure so many of us have the experience that graduate school, at least from our friends, or if we're in graduate school already, we know how hard and how draining it can be.
It is.
But thank you. I think this is going to help us a lot.
And I think this is one thing that I'd like to emphasize. It's Filipino researchers and Filipino scientists are good. We are being invited everywhere. We are being imported. We get to export scientists outside of the country. Pero sana, as Filipino scientists, include that question in the list of many questions that you want to answer. Kailangan ba ako sa Pilipinas? Gusto ko bang mag-serve sa Pilipinas pagkatapos? Kasi, as a country, as a marine scientist, we are a country that is made up of 82% water and only 18% land. And yet, right now, in my field, in the oceanography, I think we only have around 17 to 20 oceanographers. So there's really a dire need for more experts in this country. And I hope when you decide to do PhDs abroad or masters, I hope andun pa din yung thinking na I'm gonna come back. Go train outside. There's nothing wrong with it. Pero I hope kung gaano man katagal yung training na yun, I hope you're gonna come back and then you're gonna serve the country because the country needs you. We need more scientists and researchers, and we need more advocates.
No, I definitely agree. I'm currently getting my bachelor's degree in the US. And as you said, life abroad is very tempting. It's very exciting, especially in America, Canada, where I know you've been. But one thing that really inspires me, and I'm sure many of us, when things are tough, is realizing that it's our responsibility with the privilege of being able to train abroad to bring our skills back home to our own country. Sure. So in line with that, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences working abroad, whether studying or researching? I'm sure everyone would like to know a lot more about that and those adventures. Yeah.
So I did my PhD in Quebec in Canada, the French city of Quebec. On peut parler en français si tu veux. So the Quebec is the French region of Canada. And the reason why I went there was, nakakatawa yung story because I was supposed to do my PhD in Germany. When I got offered the PhD in Germany, purely medyo lab work lang siya. It means that they're gonna give me a bacteria and they're gonna work on that bacteria for like 3 years of my life. And then I met this supervisor from Canada. And then she asked me, she's like, do you want to work in my lab? It's like, oh, what can you offer me? Because maganda naman yung offer ng Germany, And then she told me, oh, I can send you to the Arctic tomorrow. And I was like, Arctic, polar bear, Aurora Borealis. And then right away I said, yeah, man, I'm going to process my papers tomorrow. I mean, that's one part of it. But what I really wanted to do in Canada is to understand climate change more. And part of the work that I did was in the North Pole, in the Arctic region. So the picture that you're seeing right now in the monitor is actually one of the expeditions I did in the Arctic region. So the Arctic is the region above 65 degrees north. Why was it very interesting for me? Because if you talk about climate change, the Arctic is one of the most vulnerable, if not the most vulnerable region on Earth. The effects, the symptoms of climate change are very apparent in the Arctic region. Ice loss, the polar bears being the iconic animals that are now starving because of those changes. So I was very interested to do research on that. So I had the opportunity to go to the Arctic every year, every summer, hop on a ship, and then do research. Ang interesting dito is that before I went to Canada, in climate change, yeah, I was reading a lot about it. I know a lot about it as a marine science student or as a marine scientist. But seeing in person how the world is really changing, it's a different experience. In 2013, the first time I went to the Arctic, yung barko namin from the north of Canada going to North Pole, hindi siya halos makaalis because there's so much ice around. We went back 2014. 2014 now is on record as the year with the lowest ice minimum extent, meaning mostly all of the ice in the Arctic region melted. So yung barko namin from Canada, halos dire-diretso lang siya hanggang North Pole. You know that difference, the contrast between 2013 and 2014? I told myself, if somebody still doesn't believe that there's climate change, man, I'm gonna bring him to the Arctic. Because the what more do we need to see to actually realize that climate change is already happening? So that's the work I did. I wanted to understand how this ice loss, the effects of climate change, global warming, affects the oceanography of the oceans, and in turn, how does it affect the functioning of the ecosystems? What's going to be the implication of this to our fisheries, to the biodiversity, to the life on Earth? So those are the things that I did for my PhD. Yeah, and it was a good experience because I learned a lot. I got to work with other scientists from all over the world. I was given the platform to actually push for my own advocacies. I created my network of scientists. That's important, to create actually a network of people. These people will be your colleagues, your supervisors, your funding agencies afterwards. So you need to establish this network of people. And then I get to have a degree, and the degree is very important for me to come back to the Philippines and then be a professor here. So yeah, it was a life-changing experience. I thought not even in Canada, not all people are given the privilege to actually go to the Arctic. It's very expensive. I think you need around $80,000 to $90,000 per day to actually go to the Arctic. But I was given that privilege. And tinatanong nila ako, people were always asking me, ano ginagawa mo sa Canada? Taga-Pilipinas ka naman. I think it's more of expanding the horizon. Again, sabi ko kanina, we need to listen to stories. And I think Mother Earth, the Earth, is actually telling us stories. And for me as a scientist, it's to discover those stories. And again, to retell those stories. And I always say, whatever happening in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. It is important for us Filipinos who live in the tropics and the archipelagic islands of the Philippines to realize that whatever changes are happening elsewhere in the world, we're going to be affected. Sea level rise will happen. Sea surface warming will happen. Ocean acidification are happening already in the Arctic, and it's going to happen to us in the Philippines. And I think it's important for us to understand both. And I think I had the privilege to be trained in these two different extreme regions of the world. I always say I'm a proud island boy, but also happy to be called an Arctic guy. So yeah. So that my PhD life was an awesome experience.
Sir, thank you so much for sharing. I think now we're gonna take a question from Mina.
Ayun, salamat sa kwento, sir. Sobrang amazing na experience mo sa Arctic. At totoong, ang ganda ng learnings at experience mo doon. Pero ang question ko lang is, what was your reason for coming back to the Philippines given that there are plenty of good opportunities abroad, especially for a scientist, di ba?
Yeah, like, existential questions, parang Miss Universe. No, sabi ko nga kanina kay Nika, you need to ask yourself, where will you be able to contribute the most? You know, as a scientist, as a biologist, or as an oceanographer, there's a lot of us in Canada. There's a lot of us in the US. There's a lot of us in Europe. Pero you come back to the Philippines, there's not much oceanographers around. So in terms of contribution, will I be able to contribute more here? So that's one consideration I had. Kailangan ba ako sa Pilipinas? And I think, oo, kailangan ako. The second thing is, you know, as a marine scientist, we are already at the center of marine biodiversity. If you want to be a marine biologist, I think, man, this is the best playground. Yeah. Yung VIP it's like 2 hours, 3 hours away from Manila. I'm from Palawan, which is already a mega diverse province or region in the world. So I think the opportunities for me to grow as a scientist, mas madami dito. Third, as a scientist also, you need to understand, ano na ba yung alam natin? 'Di ba? That's one of our goals, to understand what is happening around us. And in the Philippines, in my field of microbial oceanography, so we published this paper in 2018. Looking back, so that's one thing I did. Baka makatulong din sa inyo if you're coming from abroad and then you want to come back to the Philippines. Tingnan niyo kung anong field yung gusto ninyo. And then look for literature, look for studies that have been done. Assess the literature. And then from there, you'll be able to see, saan kaya ako pwede mag-contribute? And when we published that paper in 2018, the question of the paper was that, how many studies have been done on climate change using the microbiology as a tool? And then what we found is, like, for the past 24 years or 27 years, there were only 3 papers that were published on climate change, in the context of climate change in the Philippines, using microbiology. And then I realized, wala pang gumagawa. Madami pang gagawin. So I became excited. Kasi it means that, you know, I call it a black box. Kasi hindi to sa ABS-CBN black box, pero it's a black box kasi you open the box, you put your hand inside, may makukuha at makukuha ka . And the exciting thing is that every time that you put your hand inside, you will always be able to get something out. And hindi natin alam kung hanggang kailan tayo may makukuha. And that is exciting for me. Because it also, para siyang surprises na every time na nagbubukas ka ng box, may nakikita ka. And that's something that I'm very interested and very excited for Filipino scientists and young Filipino scientists to actually do. So yung tatlong yun yung naging consideration ko nang bumalik ako ng Pilipinas. Saka yung bata talaga, yung bata talaga nakausap ko, because every time I go home, dumadaan siya sa bahay. And hanggang ngayon, yung interest niya to actually pursue a career in the marine sciences para maging doktor ng dagat, andun pa din . So for me, it was a validation.
So Deo, that's really such an inspiring story, especially from your studies in the Arctic and everything. But like, considering that story from the child that you just shared, what issues right now are you more involved that made you think bigger in the Philippines? Like, what work are you doing right now in the Philippines that still represents this child, the story of this child that you shared?
Yeah. So if you're gonna look at the issues in the Philippines, for me, I would categorize it into the conventional or classical stories, issues, problems, and then the new and emerging ones. Yung classical na dyan, environmental degradation due to illegal activities, land reclamation, andyan na yun even before pa. But as it happens, we have new and emerging issues. We've got climate change. You know, as an archipelagic country, we are actually a vulnerable country. Andyan yung microplastics, plastics pollution. I was surprised because when I came back, there was only one publication on plastics, about plastics problem in the Philippines, in the marine environment. And that was that was exciting for me because it also means that more work for me as a scientist. I'm also involved now with in pollution. So I study red tide, harmful algal blooms, eutrophication. And then also, andyan tayo sa issue ng West Philippine Sea. I was given the opportunity, as Mina said earlier, to actually be involved and led an expedition last year to push for the advocacies in the West Philippine Sea. So I'm very much involved. I have ongoing projects and students that I'm advising who are working on plastics pollution, uh, and then the eutrophication, and then climate change issues. Yeah.
Good, sir. How during this pandemic now, how has it affected your work and all your involvements and everything?
Well, as Mina would know, as marine scientists, we need to be always on the sea or underwater. And because of the quarantine and then the limitations with the mobility, we're not able to really spend time on the sea. But this is also a time for us to do some of our backlogs and then do some of the bench or desktop work and then advising theses. So how did it affect us? Well, hindi kami nakapag-field, but we were given the time to actually go back into the data, write publications, and then also write new proposals for projects. I think meron lang konting hirap primarily because as marine scientists, March to June is the best window to actually go field work. At hindi namin nagawa yon. I think we actually had a scheduled expedition to the West Philippine Sea last April. And then after that is the Philippine Rice, and then the Cagayan, and then we have the Visayan Seas, and then the Seleuci. But we were not able to do that, and we will not be able to do that until June. So that I think that's one of the problems we had as marine scientists because we really need to go on the field. Pero yun, so ang ginawa na lang namin is to go back into the data, do more analysis, and then do more work, write reports, write publications. Also, follow up yung aming mga estudyante for their thesis proposals, thesis defense, di ba, Mina? So, yun yung ginagawa namin ngayon. It doesn't stop, the pandemic did not stop us from becoming scientists. I think aside from being scientists din naman, you needed to ask yourself, saan ka ba pwede pang magbigay? So I know a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my friends who are in the academe are doing their own contributions to their own communities in their own little ways to contribute to the efforts or initiatives for the COVID pandemic. Some of the faculty in UPMSI and also in the other institutes in the College of Science, like the 3D print ng face shields, and then we're distributing it to the different hospitals. Some are involved with the COVID response team, so they're coming up with models. They're coming up with advisories and policy recommendations to the IITF, to the different agencies. So yun, it's a new normal for us, I guess. And then we're doing a lot of webinars because it's a captured audience. It's the best time to actually give lectures and then inspire people to do research, do science work. And thank you again to WWF for the invitation.
Hi, sir. Medyo connected lang dun. So, how do you think will marine research and conservation move forward during this global health crisis? Since, hindi na nga tayo, may hirapan na nga tayo makapunta sa sites natin, sa yung dagat, which is our playground. So, ano yung mga changes and setbacks na mangyayari sa marine research?
Siguro this is also the time to highlight yung instrumentation. As marine scientists, ako as an oceanographer, probably not applicable to all fields. But as an oceanographer, we have actually ways of gathering data without leaving the office. Diba? Andyan yung mga satellite imaging, andyan yung radars natin. And I think it's time to highlight the need and the application of these instrumentations. So, how did the seas and the weather and the CO2 and the different levels of gases in the atmosphere change? Nung nagkaroon ng ECQ, for example, or lockdown in the different countries, we know that emissions have decreased. But it also tells us that, ano kaya yung scenario when you decrease the emissions, ano kaya yung implication nito sa 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 atmosphere at saka sa environment natin. So it's a good opportunity to test hypotheses that are not mainly based dun sa conventional or traditional concept natin of lab work or lab experimentation. Because for me right now, what is happening is actually a big experiment. You know, the entire world shutting down or the entire world actually reducing its emissions. It's a big, big experiment. And it's one way for us scientists to exploit. We can make or we can consider this entire ECQ or entire lockdown as an experiment of reducing emissions and what's going to happen to the atmosphere. And as scientists, we have ways on how to gather data without actually going to the field for these types of questions. So I think merong paradigm shift na mangyayari, at least for us sa field namin, na we get to exploit, we get to use and maximize more yung mga instrumentation na dati medyo tinitake natin for granted. I think the way we see things will also change kasi nga, you know, sometimes innovations are made because of necessities. And as marine scientists, we now have the necessity to continue doing our research, but we have the need for innovation. And I think doon magli-lead yun. We're gonna exploit more possibilities on how to gather data, on how to come up with more stories to tell without leaving or without actually going into the field. For me, it's also an opportunity to look back. If we can't go to the field right now, probably we can go back to the data from years before. And then from going back into the data, then probably we can already tell a story. So it's an opportunity to step back, reassess, and then see what have we done before, and then probably where we are going after this pandemic. Yeah. Kaya ngayon, I was just reading a lot of reports last night. Ang dami-daming lumalabas ng mga ganitong klase ng data. Na they're going back into the decadal data from before. I think because they can't go to the field, so napipilitan silang balikan yung mga data nila. And it's a good thing. It is a good thing to actually go back into the data and then see what has already happened. And then to assess where we are going after this pandemic.
Sir Dale, thank you so much. Again, another great answer. But I wanted to take the time to turn the conversation to the many questions that we have for you from our audience. We have so many, so thank you guys to everyone who's watching. We see you and we're reading everything. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to all the questions because it is already past 7 p.m. and we don't want to keep everyone too long. However, there might be a part 2 if people want. So I'd like to turn over to Kiana to ask some of the audience questions.
Hi, Sir Deo. Sir, very insightful yung sinabi mo kanina from actually identifying issues na dapat focus natin here in the Philippines, as well as the importance of collaboration then not just with academic institutions but also with the government. Yeah. So first is, how can the LGUs actually and the communities work together para mas mapa-implement pa natin ng maayos yung Philippine environmental laws? And the second one would be, paano kaya natin ngayon i-conduct yung research? Given you're a scientist, you've mentioned na this new normal, everything that is happening right now is actually an opportunity for us to learn. So paano naman ngayon yung paradigm shift na sinasabi nyo when it comes to research, and paano natin yun magagamit as a tool to collaborate not just with academic institutions but also with the government?
Okay. Siguro first dun sa, I think this is more of a commentary. You know, working with different organizations and advocacies in the past years, ang nakikita kong one problem that we had is when organizations or LGUs implement something, they would think that the approach or the intervention is universal or universally applicable, when in fact it's not. Ang nangyayari sa atin, we take a template and then we apply it. And I think that's a problem because we don't consider anymore the cultural differences, the context of the locality. So I think dito na papasok yung dialogue. And again, immersion. Sometimes magugulat kayo, ako at least for my experience, the best solutions did not come from the organizations or the LGUs. They actually came from the fisher folks. They would know. They would know how to solve the problem. Ang kailangan lang nila is assistance and then empowerment. You need to empower them for them to speak. You need to empower them for them to implement a project. You need to equip them for them to be able to do something. Hindi pwedeng one way. It should always be two-way, in a way that we listen more actually to the community. Because for me, I always believe the fisher folks, the farmers, they know more about their environment than us, the scientists. I call it the indigenous knowledge, because they're actually geniuses in their own way. The indigenous peoples are actually genius in their own way, and we just need to exploit that experience and knowledge. Doon naman sa question mo on how are we going to shift now to from going to the field and gathering data to being locked down in somewhere and then still gathering data. I think this is also an opportunity for Filipino scientists to start experimenting about citizen science. So this citizen science has already gained momentum and interest and has been implemented in different parts of the world, where you actually teach the people to gather data for you. For example, sa amin, sa plastics, gusto namin halimbawa magkaroon ng monthly monitoring para makita namin yung accumulation ng plastics on the shore. Limited kami sa manpower. So what do? We partner with the local communities who actually do clean up every month. And then we teach them how to sort the garbage, collect data for the different brands, for the different types of plastics, for the amount of plastics being collected. And that for us is already valuable. So citizen science, I think there's already, now there are different universities are also using phone apps. Ang ginagawa lang nila, I know for some shellfish, for example, and fish, may dinevelop na app. So if you want to contribute on looking at the biodiversity of fish all around the country, download mo lang yung app and then pipicturean mo lang yung fish. And then the app will actually send the fish and also identify the fish. And then it gets into a repository, and then you now have a data of what type of fish are found in this areas, anong species na yon. So it's citizen science. So, siguro before then we go to that direction, we also need to empower the people with scientific information. So dun papasok din yung education. There's a lot of fake news around, misinformation and disinformation. I think doon tayo papasok as scientists and also as advocates, that when we argue, when we tell stories, they should actually be based on science. Let's make science the language of the people. So dito naman papasok yung science communication. So I think you guys as young people, including me, by the way, I think we had a very good platform in front of us right now, social media. Isang click lang nandun na lahat eh. So I think pwede nang i-exploit yon at i-maximize yon for scientific use. Yeah.
Ayan. Thank you, Sir Deo. I think you've touched a very important aspect din of development, not just sa conservation, but actually community development, which is participatory action nga. You've mentioned the importance of actually investing sa mga tao kasi sila naman talaga yung may mas alam kung ano yung issue at kung ano yung mga possible solutions. And siguro nakikita lang din natin dito yung aspect na if we want to get them involved sa conservation, they also need to be equipped with technical aspect nga, just like what you've mentioned. So now, sir, parang paano kaya natin mas mako-communicate better yung technical parts or yung science aspect sa mga common people katulad namin na interesado naman to actually contribute to conservation, na kailangan lang pa ng mas technical na aspect?
Science communication. I think scientists need to learn how to communicate well or more. And I think dito papasok yung artists. I always believe that as scientists, science always needs the arts. Science is the abstract, but the arts is the expression of that abstract. And we just need to be more creative. In my hometown, for example, ang ginagawa dun sa mga brochure, we actually translate them to local language. Gumagamit ng comics. Tayong mga Pilipino, mahilig tayo sa storya. Mahilig tayo sa chismis. So, ang isang approach dyan is to actually turn the chismis into a scientific information. Pag chismisan nila yung information na yun. Mahilig kasi tayo mag-consume ng storya. So, I think there are a lot of ways on how to turn a scientific information into a story that can be relatable to Filipinos' everyday lives. So, I think yun yung challenge sa atin ngayon. But it's doable. It's being done already in different parts of the world. And it's being done also in other fields, diba? Comics, you collaborate with artists, you do videos, you do photographies, yung mga sa amin, meron akong artist, ang ginagawa niya lang, he would actually go around the community, take pictures. And then after that trip, he would post the pictures, and then people get amazed. Tapos each picture tells a story. And all of this collection tells one big story. And then people get to understand, ito pala yun. They want to follow the story of a plastic. You start with a plastic being purchased somewhere. And then, pakita mo kung saan pumupunta yun pagkatapos and paano na-apektuhan yung mga tao. I think, you guys are more creative than me, pero I think there's a lot of ways on how to do it. It's science communication. We need to make science the language of the people. It's not dumbing. I think that's where we become careful. It's not dumbing down of science, but it's actually laymanizing science. Kasi I think education din should be tweaked a bit kasi nung bata ako, takot ako sa science at saka sa math. Kasi intimidating siya. Even the way it was taught, napaka-intimidating sa akin. Pero I learned a lot because of Matinik. I learned a lot because of Siniskwela, di ba? Because it was a fun way to learn.
And that's actually laymanizing the
it's a laymanizing, right?
And you're reaching a lot of people by doing that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of ways, especially right now. I think we have a new platform. I won't be able to do this kung wala tong Zoom, di ba?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sir Deo. Thank you so much for highlighting na dapat nga science does not discriminate actually. Dapat pinag-merge nga both the arts and the technical aspect of it. So it's such a good way then to actually continue with this conversation rin na knowing na you don't have to have a technical part or technical background to contribute. Parang you just have to maximize whatever talent you have. Yun. And if you're really passionate about conservation, meron kang magagawa.
Yeah. I think you also need to look at it holistically kasi.
Yes.
Diba? Lahat everyone can actually contribute. Sabi ko nga, you don't need to be a scientist to be an advocate. You just need to feel, husay, galing, at puso.
Okay, sir. Hello, sir. I'm back.
Hi, Dane. Welcome back.
Before I ask the next question, or maybe the last question, I just want to acknowledge our Facebook viewers. NYC, mag-hi naman kayo sa kanila. Mag-hi kayo sa kanila. Ayan. Sir, eto tanong ko, medyo science ito ha. Pero feeling ko kasi yung nagtanong, parang alam yung personal na life mo as a marine scientist. The question is actually from eto commonality, sir, para po sa mga Facebook viewers na hindi nakakaalam. So, we're both UP faculty members, si Sir Deo, and nakakatawa kasi yung nagtanong, sir, kilala mo. Kilala ko rin kasi estudyante ko siya sa UP. And the question is, sabi niya, sir, among all the organisms in the oceans, why study microorganisms? O
yes.
Sir, bakit bakit yung mga bagay na hindi natin nakikita ang gusto mong aralin? Diba?
Sarap kayo aralin ng multo, di ba? They parang na-apektuhan ka but you don't see them. I'm excited to answer that question. I can actually give you an entire day for a lecture for why you study microbiology. But one thing, microbes, even though you don't see them, are the masters of all ecosystems. Why I'm saying that? Kasi in the oceans especially, on land, the main producer of foods are the plants, right? But when you go into the oceans, there's no land kasi masyado siyang malalim. You don't have big plants, you don't see anything. But what you see are these planktonic organisms called phytoplankton. And thank the phytoplankton because every other breath you take, the oxygen that you take, 60% of that is actually from the phytoplankton. So we don't see them, We don't necessarily appreciate them because they're very small, but they actually control each and every one of us because they produce the oxygen, they regulate the climate, they fuel the trophic food webs and ecosystems in the marine and aquatic environments. They are part of each biogeochemical cycle that you can actually describe. They're very diverse. They're amazing. If you look at the different structure, morphology, yung mga diatoms natin, dinoflagellates, they're very amazing. It fascinates me how these very small organisms, although they're very, very, very small, can actually control the entire planet. So that's one thing why I'm very fascinated with the microbes. Even now, diba? I mean, viruses are also microbes or microorganisms. They're very small pero lahat tayo nagpapanik ngayon kung anong nangyayari. And I think understanding them, understanding how they control the ecosystems, how they influence the earth, will allow us to understand more on how are we going to manage, protect, preserve, utilize sustainably the resources that we have. So it's more of understanding the earth from the lens of the microorganisms. Sabi ko nga, sometimes those with the smallest sizes play the biggest roles, and that's the reason why I'm very fond of the microorganisms.
Ganda. Yun yung nasabi. Coming from a bio background, sir, of course, I do understand the dynamics, but yeah, it's a reality that it's really hard for other people, especially for the ordinary Filipinos, to understand what we're doing as scientists. But of course, again, we have to emphasize that we have a great bunch of communicators around us and artists around us that can explain what we're doing as scientists. Ang ganda. Ang galing mo,
saka
sir.
Siguro, we just keep an open mind din kasi. In listening, you need to have an open mind. And by having an open mind, you yourself learn a lot of things. And that's interesting kasi, every day is a learning experience. Yeah.
Sir, may nagtatanong.
Ikaw yata yung nagtatanong.
Yes. Sir, for our FB audience right now, so very casual yung conversation, but I hope you're getting a lot from this session from Sir Deo, our guest right now. Before we end, sir, we have to wrap things up kasi, sir, napapasarap na po yung usapan natin.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Okay lang, sir.
Kaya baka for na lang, invite ka namin kung sakasakaling magkaroon ng part 2 ulit, diba? I think our audience would love that. Ang dami pang unanswered.
5 hours na yun, sir.
Actually, mahihain po talaga ako. So, let's see kung part 2.
Wala yung mahihain, sir. Anyway, sir.
Mahihain talaga.
Last question na po. Actually, dalawa to, sir, pero magkasunod na siya. Yung first is, if there's one lesson that we can learn from this session sa lahat ng na-share mo sa amin as a marine scientist, as an advocate, ganyan, ano yung gusto mong manatili at manatili sa mga minds and hearts namin as young advocates? And also, last question, sir, ihahabol ko na para minsanan. Saan ka daw po pwedeng stalk? Charot. Where can we follow Deo's work? Sabi po from Nico Lacson. Where can we follow Deo's work? Does he have a LinkedIn account or maybe a blog? Taray, sir. Influencer.
Influencer. Siguro to answer the first question, one thing I learned when I came back to the Philippines, I came back relatively still young. And Filipinos, we have a culture of superiority. If you're young, medyo limited yung alam mo, ganun yung perception natin medyo limited yung kaya mong gawin. You're young, nobody listens to you that much. Ganun. It's one thing that I needed to struggle with. Kasi as a scientist, I have a lot to say, pero I need the oldies to listen to me. So don't ever let anyone tell you to shut up just because you're young. I think, on the contrary, because you're young, you have a lot to say, and say it, do it. Don't let anybody tell you to shut up. It's one thing I learned. So, pero yun lang, kailangan when you talk, may backup ka, meron kang pinaggagalingan, you're standing on a solid ground. But don't let anybody tell you that because you're young, you have nothing or you cannot do anything. I think that's the advantage. The youth is a very powerful group, and if we just know how to communicate well, if we know how to approach things well, if we are coming with a very strong argument, we are standing on a solid ground, we will be able to do more. So I think yun lang naman na as youth, know that you are actually powerful, but use that power and that opportunity and that vigor and that youthfulness to do good things. So I hope that's one thing that I can impart. I'm already towards the end of my youth stage, as per UN description. But I am happy to actually have worked with a lot of youth during my time, which who changed me and who actually contributed to my growth. So yun, as a youth, know that you're actually powerful. On where you can follow me, I have a Facebook page, pero I don't encourage you to follow my Facebook page. But my lab, the Microbial Oceanography Laboratory, the one that I established and still supervising, has has Facebook page. The name is Microbial Oceanography. We are also in Twitter and Instagram. So makikita nyo din yung mga ginagawa ng mga estudyante. And then we also have our own podcast. So it's called Microvlogs. Microvlogs, we will have the pilot episode next week. And I'm inviting, sorry, WWF, but I'd like to take the opportunity and invite everyone to actually watch our pilot episode, Microvlogs. We will have 4 young, budding, early career marine scientists as our feature, as our pilot guests. We will be talking about yung mga tanong nyo kanina, why do a PhD? Why do a master's? What happens to me after my PhD? May buhay ba ako sa Pilipinas? Makakahanap ba ako ng jowa sa pag-PhD? Yung mga ganong bagay yung pag-uusapan natin nga. So I'd like to invite everyone to actually watch and follow us on that platform, Microbial Oceanography Laboratory. Yeah.
Dr. Deo, we just on behalf of the entire NYC and I'm sure of our audience members and the entire WWF, we want to say thank you so much. This was incredible listening to you talk and share your story. We are all just so inspired. And also to everyone on our Facebook Live, thank you for watching and asking your questions. This was really a meaningful experience. And we hope to do more work with you in the future, sir. So thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity, Masaya lang ako kasi I'm with fellow youth, ganyan. And thank you for the opportunity. It was a wonderful night.
Yes, it was really great. I think quarantine has been hard for a lot of us and of course some more than others, but being with you here tonight and the rest of NYC, I think it's been a great time. So thank you, really.
Last na lang, sorry, I'll take the opportunity. My laboratory is looking for masters and PhD students. If you want to pursue a career in the marine sciences, send us an email or message us on Facebook. We're looking for more students. We have research topics available for you, and we also have positions for PhDs and postdoctoral fellows in the coming months. And I hope to see you around. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sir Deo.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
See you po sa Tubataha. Charot.
Yes. I'm gonna leave now.
Bye, sir. Thank you so much. Anyway, thank you very much for our guest. Thank you very much, Sir Deo, and also to our Facebook viewers. Maraming salamat po sa pagsubaybay. But we're not so done yet. We still have time to answer questions. We will answer questions from the Facebook Live audience and also we will try to answer it as the National Youth Council. So, para lang po mabigyan kayo ng konting background, we did this ConCon because we want to really promote our initiatives and projects as the National Youth Council. And although we have a multitude of environmental organizations working on different causes for the environment in the Philippines, the NYC of the WWF Philippines is committed to help youth members also all over the Philippines in terms of the environmental protection initiative. So kaya kami nandito kasi gusto naming makita ng mga kabataan all over the Philippines that even though you're young, kahit bata ka, meron kang pwedeng gawin at meron kang pwedeng iambag sa country natin, particularly for environmental protection. So, kung makikita nyo, nandito pa rin ang aking mga kasama sa National Youth Council. I still have Kiana, Mina, Gab, and Nick to answer questions from the audience before we end this session. So, for the past days, we actually gathered several questions from our social media accounts. And one of the best questions, I think, which can be, I think, answered by our NYC chair, Kiana. Are you still there? Yes, madam?
Yes, hello.
Yes,
Andito pa.
Kiana is still there. Kiana, can you please share your thoughts about this question? We got this from Instagram. An audience asked this. What's the feeling, or parang paano daw yung journey as a young environmental advocate pero hindi ka naman talaga on an environmental science or a biology background?
Ayun, for me kasi, I think I speak for those people who are actually really passionate about environmental advocacy but without the technical background nga. Or I have a liberal arts degree pero I'm really interested about sustainability, conservation, and ito na yung, kumbaga, my journey with WWF NYC gave me a platform din to actually learn a lot. Kasi for us, hindi naman sa nasa disadvantage kami, pero yun nga, it is a huge opportunity for us kasi marami kaming pwedeng malaman. And katulad nga ng sinasabi ni Sir Deo, parang it's also a responsibility sa amin na actually mag-aral and equip yung sarili namin with the right information para kapag pumunta na kami sa harap ng mga estudyante at magkaroon tayo ng opportunity to actually share kung ano man yung mga natutunan natin, ready tayo and tama yung sinasabi natin. And for me, as a National Youth Council member for 4 years, hindi lang na-build yung confidence ko whenever I do speaking. It also gave me a sense of responsibility para nga malaman and magkaroon and kupilos as an individual para mas malaman ko ano nga yung mga environmental issues na dapat nating i-tackle and i-focus, and at the same time, i-reach sa mga fellow young Filipinos natin, di ba? For better impact. Yun. So, yun siya for me as a liberal arts student na really into environmental advocacy.
That's really nice, Kiana, kasi feeling ko ang alam lang ng mga tao is that you can only enter the advocacy for environmental protection and conservation if you're in the science field. But of course, that's why I appreciate the NYC as a council, because we're really diverse in terms of our backgrounds, in terms of our field. So, na-enrich natin yung mga projects and initiatives natin. So, there's
Yan
another
nga din Sorry, Dave. I-highlight lang din natin na because of our different backgrounds nga, parang mas nagkakaroon tayo ng holistic view of how environmental advocacy should be. So, I think one form din is actually the arts, how we capture things and how we actually present it to the audience using our social media platforms. And I guess si Gab can actually help us parang see kung paano ba natin ma-maximize as young individuals yung talent natin, and at the same time yung access natin to other platforms such as social media, photography, yung mga ganun.
Gab, you're on mute.
Anyways, environmentalism shouldn't be discriminative. It's supposed to be something that everyone embodies. So you could be an engineer, you could be a photographer, you could be working in social development or community development. You can even be a doctor and be advocating for the environment. It's something that we should live by and not something that we are labeled as.
Thank you so much, Gab. There's another question from our audience. I think Nikki can answer this one, of course. The question is, how can you use or how can you encourage young people to participate in research, like as a citizen scientist, and also how can you maximize your social media platform in terms of your advocacy?
Yes, thank you, Dane. I think Sir Dio talked about this a little bit when he was speaking, but personally, I'm like Kiana. I have a liberal arts, or I'm getting a liberal arts degree in sociology and international relations. But even if, people might think that these subjects are not really related to sustainability, I want people to understand that as a young person, one of the greatest privileges that we have is receiving an education, right? And so I think it's very important for us to maximize our education. And part of that is becoming educated about our world, how the environment works, sustainability, how to be good global citizens. And I think we're lucky enough as students to be able to incorporate these subjects into what we're learning, no matter what our major or concentration is. So even if I'm doing sociology and international relations, I take courses on international law, sustainability practices for sustainable development around the world. And I find a way to fit it into my major. I don't want people to think that sustainability and conservation is an extracurricular activity. It can be part and parcel of what you're doing as a student. And that then can also lead you to many interesting research opportunities as an undergrad. Oh, and then of course, maximizing social media. I think it's important. For me, example, I'm not like Gab. My social media doesn't focus entirely on environment and conservation, but I definitely think it's important to show that no matter what you do in your day-to-day, what industry you're involved in, what your routine and experience is like, there's always an environmental twist to it, or some way that you're engaging with your world sustainably. I think that's really, really important. And everyone can do it.
Thank you so much for that, Nikki. I think, social media is really a powerful tool in terms of reaching out to your stakeholders and also to your audience. So it's a way of communicating our causes, but at the same time, we really want to explore more and innovate more in terms of the initiatives that we do. So there's another question. We're trying to answer questions. So for those people who are on Facebook Live, please drop your questions. We're going to try to answer those. So this is a very technical question, but I think the NYC can answer this. We can. The question is, my question is that the dramatic decline of economic activity, while profoundly disruptive, has led to substantial reduction in demand for fossil fuels and consequent reductions in air and water pollution. How can the youth today assist in the advocacy of marine conservation and policy advocacy? It's technical, but I think we have people from legal studies, we have people from science, we have people from engineering, we have people from sustainable business. We can answer that. So who wants to go first?
Siguro ako, we don't want disruption actually in economic activity. Kasi it's something na we are all related, or doon tayo din siguro naka-invest at some point. Parang as much as possible, we don't want that. And hindi naman, actually parang for me, hindi dapat din doon yung question if we want to actually focus on marine conservation and policy advocacy. Parang hindi na natin dapat, parang how do I frame this? Hindi naman porke tumataas yung economic activity ay kasama na rin naman, hindi porke bumababa yung economic activity ay dapat na naka side by side na din doon yung pagganda ng environment or na nag-heal yung environment. Actually, hindi naman dapat ganun yung pagtingin natin doon. For us kasi, environmental advocacy should happen every day with or without the current situation na we are in, na yung etong COVID crisis or what, parang hindi naman siya talaga doon naka-relate. For us kasi parang environmental advocacy should happen dahil ito ay nakabangka sa kung ano yung ginagawa natin sa pang-araw-araw. 'Di ba parang gano'n? So for me, parang for environmental advocacy, kailangan lang natin i-equip yung sarili natin ng mga tamang information. Pangalawa, bago nga tayo mag-move forward or bago tayo mag-engage sa other people, i-make sure muna natin din na tama yung mga information na nakukuha natin, na tama yung mga sources natin. And at the same time, let's also stay curious. Let's also ask for help from mentors, listen to people na meron talagang expertise doon. And from there, doon na tayo mag-start, mag-explore kung ano yung mga pwede nating gawin as young individuals.
Thank you so much for that, Kiana. I think that's a profound answer for the question. And yeah, it's really part of being an advocate it would be to study and to educate themselves about issues, not only issues on the environment, but all over the Philippines, issues that we face right now. They're really integrative in terms of its dynamics. So it's really important that we educate ourselves also with other issues in our country. And I think because we have to end this soon, we're down to our last question. And I think this can be answered by the remaining NYC members. I think Mina can answer, Gab can answer, I guess, and maybe I can synthesize later. But the question is, how do we get the youth to enter a career, or how to get the youth members or the youth sector into conservation? Because I think there's always this disconnect for the youth to enter such a technical and sort of like intimidating field. So NYC, can you share some insights as to how we can encourage the youth to participate in this advocacy? Mina?
Hi din. Thank you dun sa question. So how do we convince other youth to get into conservation? So you really have to immerse yourself in nature. You have to go outside. You have to learn to appreciate the environment and appreciate even the littlest animals first. Then you would want to protect what you love. I think that's the first step. But yung passion kasi is not enough. You also have to be aware of the realities. You have to be knowledgeable about the status of our environment and the issues surrounding it. And if aware ka na doon, and if you have the passion, and I think that will drive the youth to get into conservation.
Gab, can you add something to that?
Yeah, adding to Mina, I think this growing disconnect with nature is something that we have to answer by immersing ourselves and exploring the world around us. Like what Sir Deo mentioned a while ago, how we can explore coral reefs. Have you even dived yet, or have you went to hike in the mountains? It's something that we can learn from, and experiencing nature first-handedly, we get to learn and appreciate what we have. And further, like more than this, I think being part of conservation is that we have to normalize that there are a lot of opportunities out there in conservation work. It's not something like business where everybody goes to business or everybody goes to economics because they think money is there or something like that. But in conservation, it's really about how we can normalize this as a formal career, that there are people who are actually working. You have forest rangers, you have scientists, and when people can see that there are role models or inspiring leaders or trailblazers that are working on this career, they feel, people like the young ones would feel like, oh, we could actually follow their footsteps, or we can learn from these mentors.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Gab. And just to share, just to wrap things up, before I'm an advocate, I'm also a teacher, and I teach a lot of college students, and they're somehow lost in the career. So marami akong estudyante na hindi pa nila alam kung ano yung gagawin nila. But I'm always telling my students, especially my students in ecology, that you're always part of nature, and everything and everyone in this planet is connected. By one way or another, we are connected in this planet. And another takeaway also with this session and with what we've been doing as the NYC is that we have to take the leadership from the most impacted and most affected people. Always and always, that's the core of the initiatives of the NYC. We really went to places like in Sorsogon, we went to San Vicente, Palawan, we went to different places across the Philippines. And the goal of that is to really inspire and engage the youth sector in participating in advocacies like this, because I think we have a shared home. This planet is our shared home. And I think as Filipinos and as the youth, we have a responsibility to protect this shared home. And I think one way to hashtag change the ending is to basically engage our fellow youth to participate in causes like this one. We can really do that. And as an optimist, I really believe that the power of the youth can be harnessed in multitudes of ways, and we can really change the ending for our planet. So with that, ayan, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much, NYC. Thank you very much, Kiana, Gab, Nikki, and Mina for this session. Also, we would like to thank WWF Philippines. We want to thank Miss Obel, Boss J, the comms team headed by Pam. Thank you very much. For our Facebook audience, maraming salamat po. Also, we want to thank our guest, our special guest, Sir Deo. Sir Deo, maraming salamat po sa pagsagot sa aming imbitasyon ni Mina. Maraming salamat po sa ambush namin. But we learned a lot from you, sir, and I hope marami rin pong natutunan ang mga Facebook audience namin. Facebook audience, again, we're very sorry for not able to answer all your questions. Marami po talagang tanong kanina, and we really want to answer those. But, of course, time constraints, so mahirap po talaga. But we will try to answer those if there's a platform for it. Maybe a session 3, as an episode 3 of this con with the NYC and another amazing guest. But then again, thank you very much po. Maraming salamat po, and I hope that may natutunan po kayo. And one thing siguro na pwede naming iwan sa inyo is that later on, after this session, I hope na meron kayong pwedeng baguhin in your lifestyle, maybe in your daily ways of living, especially for the new normal right now. And I hope everyone is well. Thank you very much po. Maraming salamat po sa lahat. NYC, drop your goodbyes now.
Thank you to our amazing host, Dane, also.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Gab. Thank you, Kiana.
Thank you, NYC. Thank you, Sir Deo. Thank you, WWF.
For more
Thank you pala sa comms team ng WWF for helping us sa session.
Let's change the ending, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.